Good morning, everyone. So my name is Martin Gallimore, and I'm actually the communities manager for the A465 Heads of the Valleys. Formerly a civil engineer, but I took on a slightly different role at the start of this scheme because we saw the importance of what we were about to deliver for the Welsh Government in terms of the size of this road scheme. So today I'm quickly going to cover a quick introduction to the scheme for those of you who aren't local. Give you a bit more information about what we're doing and why the Welsh Government are doing it. To look at the social and economic objectives that we set at the start of the contract. Looking at then how we're actually putting that into action by developing plans and what outcomes that is having. And then a quick summary of where we've got to. So this is a map of South Wales for those of you who aren't from Wales, and I think there's a few here this morning. The section highlighted there in the balloon is the section of the A465 Heads of the Valleys Road that isn't currently dual carriageway, or wasn't currently dual carriageway in 1998, when the government put into place a plan to create a dual carriageway all the way from Swansea through to the Midlands. So they put a plan in place to say we'll dual the rest of the A465, and then over the years since 98 have put in plans to actually deliver that. The Heads of the Valleys, again, if you don't really know it, does suffer from long-standing severe deprivation, and as a result, back in the early days, was made Wales's first strategic regeneration area. So it's an area that needs support, needs investment to help it prosper. The bit of the road that we're looking at today is called Section 3. They split it up into 6 bits so that they could deliver it over time. We're delivering Section 3. It happens to be the 3rd section, but I think they started at Section 4, then they moved to Section 1, and now we're delivering Section 3. Section 2 is also just about started, just as we're coming to a close within the next sort of 4 or 5 months. They're hoping to complete the whole thing by 2020, so it's quite an ambitious programme. The bit that you're looking at in the red line is our new road. It's only 7.8 kilometres long. The construction cost is 116 million. So you can see this is quite a big investment in terms of investment back into the area, into Wales and into the economy. We were awarded our contract back in March 2010, so some time ago now. But it was awarded on the basis of something called an ECI, early contractor involvement. What that means is we have to take what is just a line on the drawing that the Welsh Government have decided on back at a public inquiry, and we have to take that into a working design that fits the needs of the community, the local area, and Wales. So through a 2-year process, we took it through a public inquiry, so we consulted with the community. We also decided on what this scheme was going to deliver for Wales and the local area. So that was done in partnership with the Welsh Government and other people. The Welsh Government on this contract, I think it was the first highways contracts to introduce a social clause, and the social clause was to bring in new entrant trainees. I think it was realised then that there's an issue in the industry that we're maybe not bringing enough trainees. So we had to commit to spending 12% of our labour spend on new entrants. Okay, so we had to calculate that at the time and make various commitments. So during that pre-construction phase, which was about just under 2 years, we luckily had the chance to get exposure to the community benefits tool, so that we could actually work out what kind of things it was looking to measure, what kind of things the Welsh Government are putting importance on, and how we were going to measure that and work towards it. So we set a number of targets here. So the first was maximising investment in local suppliers and contractors. The second was about looking at local employment, supporting local people, again concentrating on the Heads of the Valleys area as much as possible, and certainly looking to improve skills and qualifications for everybody. We wanted to go slightly further than that, and we also wanted to look at sort of addressing things slightly earlier with school children, trying to engage them in the area to thinking about work, employment, and thinking about a more prosperous future rather than just potentially following the footsteps of their parents, which may not have been in work for a couple of generations before them. We also did a lot of work on looking at how we could support the community in terms of community projects, but the reason I've grayed that out is that I'm not going to talk about that today. So maximising local investment. We were key really to look at how we could best identify how we could work with local companies. And as a major contractor, we already have contacts within the local area, but we may not know everybody. So what we actually did was we held something called Meet the Buyer events, which some of you may be familiar with. Essentially, it's putting us out there to the marketplace and saying, look, this is what we're about to do. What services can you offer? And hopefully from that, we get new contacts, and hopefully new contacts within the local area that can provide goods or services that we could utilise on the scheme. There's sometimes issues with that in that local companies may not have the correct sort of skills, competencies, accreditations that Carillion require. But what we then look to try and do is work with those contractors to put them on a level playing field with the rest of basically their competitors. At this stage, we set some quite strict targets, or quite stringent targets. I decided, based on the evidence that I'd looked at from other companies, that we were going to try and target 90% of our spend in Wales for the contract. So everything we spend on contractors and suppliers, we're looking at 90% of that. I then said, well, in terms of our local area, I called that the regeneration area, which was the highlighted area on one of the earlier slides. So rather than saying within 50 miles of the scheme, I just said it's that economic regeneration area. And I wanted to spend 50% of our suppliers' money on companies or suppliers from the Heads of the Valleys area. So through these Meet the Buyer events, we gained access to a number of companies that we hadn't previously worked with. One of them was Monwell's. Monwell recruit or employ a number of disabled workers. They recently recruited a number of the ex-Remploy staff that got made redundant through the cuts. And we work with them to look at their capability to deliver our signs installation package. With a bit of work and some early conversations really through the Meet the Buyer events, they've ended up getting a contract worth £250,000 to them. This has enabled them to grow their business. They just turned into a social enterprise at the time we awarded the contract. This to them is worth about a third of their annual turnover. So it supports that local community. Now, Monwells are based within probably about half a mile of the scheme, so very local, and again, it's rechurning those local people. The second company that we got sight of at a Meet the Buyer event was Untitled Composites. They produce a noise barrier product made out of recycled carpet. Again, they are literally based on the scheme. They're based on the industrial estate where we've got our site office. By working with them, we were able to look at changing the specification pre-contract so that we can incorporate their design if they were sort of economically viable, which they were. And again, they're now working through one of our supply chain partners as the supplier of that material. So again, it's keeping local people employed, and now it's a great showcase for them for sort of contracts going forward. The other area of sort of the local investment and economic development is securing work for the future, because we're only a construction company that's going to be there for a couple of years and then we're going to go. We can't carry on building roads in the same place because it's not feasible. But it's also working with other partners that essentially are going to invest in the area for the long term. And off the back of the contracts to dual this section of road, the Circuit of Wales, which some of you may have heard of, said, well, if this road wasn't going to be built, we wouldn't think about putting a racetrack in the Heads of the Valleys. So that's potentially leading to future investment, which hopefully creates future jobs and future prosperity for the area. And as part of our design, we had to amend the entrance to the industrial estate to accommodate the potential access roads in and out for the race events. So to summarise that section, what we're hoping to spend is £75 million on Welsh businesses. 45% of that spend is within the Heads of the Valleys. Now I targeted 50 because I'm an ambitious kind of person. Whether it was ever achievable, potentially not, because there's certain things we can't procure in Wales or locally within the heads of valleys. But we've got close, and what it's done is driven all of the team to keep working and working to get there. So moving on to local employment and skills. Again, heads of the valleys is suffering slightly from low skills, low qualifications compared to the rest of Wales. Issues with ambition and confidence among young people. And also there's issues of barriers to work. Some young people just haven't even considered moving into the next valley, never mind, travelling down to Cardiff or moving to England. So these things are quite difficult challenges to overcome. So we did a lot of pre-construction engagement, and this was the benefit of having this 2-year period during the ECI process. Quite a strange looking map there, but essentially what we tried to do is look at all the partners that could support us in delivering our objectives. We can't deliver this alone, we're only a construction company, but there's a number of organisations here that we decided, right, well, if we partner with you and we deliver this with you, we will hopefully achieve our goals. The key to this was working in this sort of central pod here with the local employment team within Blaen y Gwent, which is the local authority that the scheme is within, and also working with their training company that they were operating, so that we could access individuals that otherwise we probably wouldn't get exposure to, so quite hard to reach groups of people. Through the local employment model, we've actually achieved 99% employment for Wales through that sort of mechanism, and I think 65% are from the heads of the valleys. So that particular model has worked quite successfully, really. So overall, for the whole employment for the contract, bearing in mind that we are bringing contractors in from other parts of the UK, we've managed to achieve 85% employment for Wales. That's in terms of time spent on site. Again, I set a target of 90% because I thought that's quite ambitious. So we nearly got there, and hopefully we'll get slightly closer towards the end of the contract. We spent £14 million on wages to people living in Wales. So again, that's hopefully recycling the income through Wales. And of that spend, 50% has been in the heads of the valleys. Well, I did set a target at 50%, so I'm quite pleased that we've just about got there. We're also working with particularly hard to reach groups of long-term unemployed. And again, it's working in partnerships. People like Communities First, we get access to these people to support them through training. 2 minutes, right, I better speed up. Through training and employment. So that's an initiative we're doing at the moment. And through our National Skills Academy that we were successful in achieving, we managed to get £100,000 worth of funding towards training and skills development. As a result of that, we'll be providing 24 apprenticeships, technical and craft level. And there's a quick summary of what we've achieved there. 25,000 weeks of Welsh employment. There's probably more than that in unemployment, but 4,500 weeks to new entrant trainees, so we exceeded our 12% target set by the Welsh Government, and we've had 250 workers gone through new skills and qualifications. The final bit is about inspiring the next generation. If we start young enough, hopefully some of these problems won't be occurring in the future. We've set up a long-term partnership agreement with the BITC to work with the schools in the area. That's a 3-year programme. We've delivered and supported people in getting their Welsh Baccalaureate. So we've delivered projects in schools. That means they've actually achieved their qualifications, used it as evidence. And as a result of working with the schools to address their needs, we've developed a suite of activities now that we know meet elements of the curriculum that we can now roll out through a number of schools in the area, and we also share them with other contractors. As a result, we've actually worked with 3,500 young people. So that's through all the events that we've delivered, which has been 65 activities to date. I think we'll probably just about reach 70 because I've done 5 in the last couple of weeks. And we've actually worked with 37 education providers now. That's from primary school, secondary, further education and higher education, all within the South Wales area. So, in summary, it is about more than just building a road these days. Gone are the days of turning up on site, putting the bulldozers in the ground, building the job as quickly as possible and disappearing again. We have to think about the wider impact of what we're doing, how we're spending our money, and technically it's the Welsh Government's money, so we're fully accountable for what we're doing, and how we're sort of bringing money back into local communities and the Welsh economy. And using the Welsh Government Community Benefits tool and the calculator, we anticipate that the investment back into Wales is going to be £180 million. We're hoping not to spend the whole of the 116 either, so they get some of that back. But that's hopefully the return to Wales. So I think I've just about done it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.